Apple has screwed up big time. Or have they? If you've ever watched my videos, you know that I don't go easy on Apple, but I am so frustrated about the irrationality and the misinformation behind this whole Apple battery situation because people are largely morons. And so let me give you some background as well as my opinion on the matter. First of all, it is important to understand how exactly rechargeable batteries work. As batteries age, they suffer from reduced capacity. An old battery doesn't last as long as a new battery. Duh, everyone knows this. But what a lot of people don't know is that they also become less capable of handling rapid power draw changes. So when your phone is off, it doesn't require that much power, but you turn the screen on and it needs more power. You turn a game on and it needs even more. You turn everything off and it goes back down. That variance, that change is not handled well by an old or a cold battery. So old and cold batteries increase what's called the impedance to handle those variations better. But when you increase the impedance, the maximum voltage, like the total amount of peak power that the battery can provide to the phone, is decreased. So up until January 2017, iPhones with old batteries would oftentimes just randomly shut off, sometimes multiple times per day, when the battery indicator was at or below about 35%. And this was because during games or when using the camera or while playing music through the speakers, etc., the phone would require more voltage, more power than the old aged battery could provide. And so the phone would just shut down. And this was happening to a lot of iPhones. My sister had a problem with this on her iPhone 6 and her iPhone 6S. And this was not and is not exclusive to iPhone either. I've had it happen on a Galaxy S6 quite back in the day and my Moto Z as well. Old batteries just do this. And it's not great. Apple saw that a lot of these users that, had used their phones for years were rightfully annoyed that their phone, which was maybe a year or a year and a half old, was randomly turning off for no reason, seemingly. So with iOS 10.2.1, early this year, back in February, Apple implemented a number of strategies so that the phone's components would never ask for more juice than the battery could supply. Now, this included dimming the camera flash, lowering the speaker volume and the screen brightness, by the way, and yes, throttling the SoC. Now, because this was battery dependent, if you got a replacement battery, you either through Apple or a local repair shop, or you just bought a $10 eBay battery and you replaced it yourself, your performance would go back to normal. No more throttling would occur. No more problems. Your phone's as good as new. Apple had two crappy options to choose from. Number one, let the phone randomly shut off until you get the new battery, which up until January they had been doing, and it's what nearly all Android manufacturers do. Not great. What if you're on a call or trying to take a photo of your kid? Or they could limit the phone's performance until you got a new battery. Also not great, but they did the latter, and I think it was a good move. A slower phone is better than a phone that randomly turns off 5 times a day. Unfortunately, and this is where Apple really screwed up big time, they didn't tell anyone that they made the change. So all of a sudden, some people's phones are running slower and slower, and nobody really knows why. Now, to be fair, part of me understands Apple's position and why they did this. Can you imagine if Apple sent a pop-up to users saying, hey, so this is Apple, this is Tim, your battery's getting kind of old. I know it's only a year and a half, but you've gone through, 500 cycles, and we're going to slow your phone down until you pay money for a new battery because we don't want it to shut off. People would freak out, and it would get national headlines everywhere that Apple was intentionally slowing down phones, and they were trying to sell batteries in new phones, et cetera, et cetera. So Apple did it without saying anything. But this is a problem for 2 reasons. Number one, it's just dishonest. And number 2, I'm betting that it led a fair amount of people to buy a whole new iPhone because they figured, oh crap, my old one's slow now and it just must be slow forever. I'm going to just go out and buy a new iPhone. Now, Apple said in an announcement this afternoon that, quote, first and foremost, we have never and would never do anything to intentionally shorten the life of any Apple product. And I do believe that. But then they say, or to degrade the user experience to drive customer upgrades. I don't know. I maybe believe them. I don't necessarily think it was malicious or evil. They were probably just trying to avoid a PR nightmare by disclosing and telling people they needed new batteries. And they really failed at that. But I mean, I totally understand if you were coming from a different point where you disagree and you think that this was intentional and planned and evil and designed to be obsolescent. But I'll play the devil's advocate here. Welcome to capitalism. Apple is not your friend. They are a corporation and they are designed to generate revenue. And they want you to buy the new iPhone. And if you think that Samsung or LG or HTC or any other company is different, you are a moron. Companies do this sort of stuff all the time. In fact, I bet Apple more than certainly performed an extensive cost-benefit analysis to determine if the lawsuits they'd have to settle outside of court when they got caught for this would be less money than the revenue they would earn from selling people new product before people figured out that it was just their batteries. But I digress. Regardless of whether Apple's intentions were pure or evil, it happened and they got caught red-handed. Now, today, Apple issued a public apology for the lack of transparency and announced that they have reduced their battery replacement cost on old iPhones from $79 to $29. Also, they're going to issue a software update early next year with a battery diagnostic tool to see the battery's health and performance. And guess what? People are still pissed, saying that Apple should replace the batteries for free. What? Now, are these positive changes only coming because Apple got caught? Of course. But the fact that they're doing anything at all should be commended. It is a gesture of goodwill. They don't have to reduce their component costs, but they did. The fact that Apple replaces batteries on a 2 to 3 year old phone is remarkable. Most smartphone manufacturers don't, and the ones that do charge a heck of a lot more than $30. Batteries are consumable. You don't get mad at Toyota when you have to pay for an oil changes. These devices are out of warranty. Apple has no obligation at all to even look at them, let alone fix the battery. At least in the US. I know in the EU it's a little bit different, but they do. Even if they still make a margin at $29, which if they do, it's going to be very little, who cares? Let them. They would much rather sell you a brand new phone, and they could easily do that by refusing to replace your battery, which they could do, or charging several $100s to fix it, which they could do, or by making you mail it into a service center for 7 to 14 days, leaving you without a phone, like a lot of other manufacturers force you to do. But they don't. You walk into an Apple store, you fix your phone in 30 minutes and $30, and that's it. You're done. And that doesn't sound very evil to me. Now, there are a lot of valid reasons to hate Apple, but I don't think this is one of them. If you enjoyed this rant, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, that thumbs down button will do. Thank you so much for watching. Let's talk civilly in the comments below. And as always, stay snazzy. See you later, folks.